Churches of Christ present Speaking the Truth in Love, a program bringing you life's answers from the Word of God.
Welcome to our program today. This program is brought to you by the Churches of Christ in the KAIT viewing area. A list of those churches will be scrolled across the screen at the end of the program. Each of these congregations extends to you a warm welcome and invites you to come and visit and study with them about the great salvation that Jesus Christ has made available to us all. If you have any questions about your salvation or any other Bible subject, feel free to contact any of these churches that may be in your area. I am Steve Prestidge. I preach for the congregation at Black Rock, Arkansas. You are welcome to come visit with us at any time. Our lesson today, in many ways, is going to focus mainly on the concept of last days. I kind of have another title for it, a little bit more lengthy, and that is The Lifestyle of the Redeemed and Faithful. You may remember several years ago, there used to be a TV program on that talked about the lifestyle of the rich and famous. And as you watched this program, you saw all the toys and the trinkets that they had and all the things that you might think, boy, I'd like to have those too. And most of us simply can't have all of those things. We can't all have big yachts. We can't all have big mansions. We can't all have big swimming pools in our backyards. We can't have all of these things that life has to offer. We can't all have that. But the lifestyle of the redeemed and the faithful, this is something that can be a possession that we can all have. We can all be redeemed. We can all be faithful if we so choose. And the reason that's so important is because of the fact that there is going to be a last day. And when we think about the last day, we live in a time, even today, that the Bible refers to as the last days. From the day of Pentecost, that's recorded in the book of Acts, in Acts chapter 2, until the time that we live today, this, according to the way the Bible refers to it, are the last days. In the Bible, there are three dispensations of time. There was the patriarchal age, in which we have Adam, we have Abraham, we have Jacob, we have all what were called the early fathers. And the patriarchal age simply meant the time in which the fathers ruled. That's what the word patriarch means, is father rule. Then we come to the time period in which Moses enters the scene. He leads the children of Israel out of bondage, and you have what is called the Mosaic age. And the Ten Commandments was given to that period of time, that period mostly covered by the Old Testament. But after Jesus comes into the world, he comes into what are the last days. Now, when we think about last days, we're thinking about this whole time period from which Jesus came into the world, died on the cross, paid the price for the church was established, and all of these are last days. And what is pointed out in this is that ultimately we are headed to a conclusion. That conclusion we often think about as the second coming of Christ. In Acts chapter 2 and verse 17 it is stated, "And it shall come to pass in the last days, saith the Lord, I will pour out of my Spirit upon all flesh." We also have a passage in 1 Corinthians 10 verse 11 that says, "These things happened to them as examples and were written down as warnings for us, on whom the fulfillment of the ages to come are the last days of the world to come. So God has seen fit to make sure that we can be prepared for these last days and ultimately for life after these last days. In the book of Hebrews in chapter 1 and verse 2, it is stated, God hath in these last days spoken unto us by his Son, whom he hath appointed heir of all things, by whom also he made the worlds. People have been trying to predict the end of time, well, for a long time. We can find throughout history there have been various occasions where people have tried to say, all right, on this date and such a year, the world is going to come to an end or Christ is going to come back. It's interesting, we hear a lot about a group of people called the Mayans. The Mayans evidently were a rather intelligent group. They had a calendar that was made, and several years ago it was thought that this Mayan calendar predicted somewhere around 2012 or somewhere in that neighborhood, the world would probably come to an end. I think that's where the Mayan calendar ended. And there were people that really thought that that was what was going to happen. I taught school and I taught math in school, and one year, around the year of 1999, and in 1999, the next year coming up was the year 2000. All kind of crazy things happened in the way people talked, and you hear people thinking, well, is the world going to end when the year 2000 rolls around? I had a student in one of my classes ask, is the world going to end then? I said, well, I'm not worried about that. I don't think that's what's going to happen because our calendar is actually 4 years off anyway. And so that's not actually going to be 2,000 years. And so with that, I kind of dismissed the idea of the world ending in the year 2000. And of course it didn't. And there have been other times in which people have predicted the world is going to end, the time has come, and it went by. So many have predicted certain dates, and then they say, well, my calculations were wrong, let me recalculate it, and then give us another date, another time. So people have been fascinated with the idea of the end of the world. But many have made a prediction, and none have been right yet. The Bible lets us know that no one knows when the ending is going to come. So we are wasting our time trying to predict it. What we need to be doing is getting ready for it. I like the words found in James chapter 5, verses 8 and 9. He says, be ye also patient, establish your hearts, for the coming of the Lord draweth nigh. Grudge not one against another, brethren, lest ye be condemned. Behold, the judge standeth before the door. Jesus even in himself, or not Jesus, but John, in 1 John 5 and verse 18 says, children, it is the last time. What we need to learn to do is realize we need to live each day as if it is our last day. For many of us, the last days will come, in the near future. We don't know when it's going to come. A few years ago, I believe there was a country singer that put out a song, everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to go down. I kind of understand that concept in a way. I want to go to heaven, but at the same time, I have 3 grandchildren from the ages of 16 down to 7. And I want to see them graduate. I kind of like to see them have grandchildren or children. But I know I can't live long enough to see all of that happen. So yes, I want to go to heaven, but yeah, there are things here on earth that I like to have as well. But what we have to learn is what is a true balance of being able to prepare ourselves and think about, okay, what is about to happen? We oftentimes sing a song that I think fits this category quite well. This world is not my home. I'm just passing through. And sometimes it's hard for us to think about this world as what we're passing through. We kind of dig in with toenails and fingernails and everything and just cling to this world, not wanting to let go. If we could really get a taste of what is beyond, I believe we'd be more inclined to be willing to let go of this physical world. Because there are so many things that God has in store for us beyond this life that are going to be beyond our ability to even comprehend right now. So as we think about last days or last times of the second coming of Christ, here are some of the things I suggest that we need to try to be doing. One is that we need to be learning of His coming. We need to learn more about what it's about. In 1 Peter chapter 4 in verse 7, Peter wrote the words, the end of all things is at hand or near. Therefore be sober or clear-minded and self-controlled so that you can pray. As we look at this particular passage, he talks about the idea of being sober. Now, the idea of being sober is the idea of being clear-headed, being serious, being of a sound mind. And so we need to learn to make sense of what this life is all about. As I've stated on one occasion before, so many people are living for the weekend. They have not learned how to live every day of their life. But what Jesus did when he came into this world was to came to make purpose for our life and make living truly worthwhile. Oftentimes we look for answers in the wrong places. We want answers to many of our questions and many of our problems. And sometimes we may feel like, well, science may be the answer. We look at our physical world today, and what do we see? We see things that years ago was only a figment of somebody's imagination. Many of us are old enough to remember an old comic book that was called Dick Tracy. And when we think about that old comic book, Dick Tracy, he had a watch, I think, that he wore, and it did some wild and crazy things. But I don't even think Dick Tracy's watch compares to what the smart watches of today are able to do. It is amazing. It can tell us our heartbeat. It can tell us many other things about ourselves. It can tell us how many steps we have taken. And so our watches truly are a wonderful feature that we have that we can use today. Science has truly done wonderful things. It's almost scary when you look at the past 50 years and see what science has done and the advances that have been made. What's in the future? What else can be done? Has everything been found that can be found? We know the answer to that. No, it hasn't been. But I really strongly believe that we have not surprised God. God knew all of these things would be here. God knew all of these things were capable to be done. God created this world, and He placed things here for us to find. Sometimes I wonder if God doesn't find Himself, I'm not going to say He's got a rocking chair in heaven, but sitting in heaven and looking down upon us and thinking, it sure took them a long time to find that. I thought I had it out there better for them. But God has put these things here so that we can find them, that we can use them. Oftentimes we call it science. The word science is a word that has to do with the concept of knowledge, the word itself. It has to do with the idea of to know. And so science in and of itself is not a bad thing. But when we put the wrong emphasis on science, then that becomes a problem for us. God is the one that's behind all of the science, true science, that is in our world today. So science of the world and science that is of man is not the answer to our problems. It helps us with a lot of things. But it does not answer the problem of what the need is for our soul. It does not answer the problem of answering the question, what is my future going to hold when this life is over? Science may be able to help me through medicine to live longer in this world, but science in and of itself does not prepare us for the life beyond. Social reform is not the answer either. I believe in creating jobs for people. I believe in helping the economy. I believe that we need to feed the poor that are out there in the world. I believe that we need to try to educate those that are underprivileged. But even in all of this still does not become the answer of the soul. The answer for the soul lies deeper than these things. And so that answer is found, of course, in God's Word. Social reform without Christ is like painting the deck of a sinking ship. You know, you can do a lot of good things, and in this life, a lot of good things can be done for people. But if it's not anchored in Christ, if it does not have a purpose that is what God has in mind for our lives in the future, then we are doing things that are going to be good for nothing. And that is a shame. We can do a lot of good things, but they will count for nothing because they weren't done according to God's will. The answer to the problems of this world and the solutions to the mystery of history, they lie in God's Word. It is God's Word that will help prepare us for the last days. It is God's Word that will help prepare us for the second coming. So when we think about last days, we think about the second coming, what do we need to do? We need to learn about it. We need to learn what it means. Sometimes individuals go through life feeling like, I'm not worried. I'm not concerned. The devil doesn't bother me. You know, if you never have met the devil, what we might say face to face, then the reason you really haven't met him or confronted him is because you're walking with him. And so the reason you haven't really collided with him is he has you right there by his side and you don't really feel his presence because you're right there with him. We need to buck up against Satan. Paul talks about in the book of Ephesians putting on the Christian armor so that we'll be able to stand against all the wiles of the devil. Paul talks about the fact of fiery darts that Satan is throwing our way. No, I don't see a fiery dart coming my way, but Satan is constantly trying to destroy our lives and pull us down and drag us down and keep us out of an eternal place called heaven. So what we need to do is we need to learn about the second coming of Christ. We need to learn to be prepared for that second coming. Another thing we need to do regarding the second coming of Christ or last days, not only do we need to learn about it, we need to look for it. looking for his second coming. There is a song that we sometimes sing that goes and is titled, Looking to Thee, and we need to look to him. Most of us, at least sometime or another, have been traveling in a car in which there are small children. And one of the questions that obviously small children are going to ask, especially if you're headed on vacation, are we there yet? You know, there needs to be a sense in which we as Christians learn to develop this concept of, are we there yet? You know, we need to long for, we need to look for, we need to anticipate the coming of Jesus Christ. This passage found in 1 Peter chapter 4 and verse 7 states this, be of sober mind and sober spirit. And that word sober, and he goes on to say, and to watch unto prayer. So if we're going to watch and we're going to look and we're going to be ready, then that means that we're going to have to learn about it and then we're going to have to look forward to it. I mentioned a while ago the song that I heard at one time. Everybody talking about heaven, want to go there, but don't want to go now. But we need to begin to try to change that concept within us. So we need to go from not only looking for his second coming, we need to develop this idea of longing for his second coming. Another song that we like to sing, one I truly enjoy, is To Canaan's Land I'm on My Way. What a great and wonderful thought. And we need to, even though we don't know what heaven looks like, even though we don't know what we are going to look like when we get there, take a look at this world around us. You know, God has put us in a world that it has some problems, of course. It has some things that people can use in wrong ways and be very destructive. But God created this world so that it is exactly what it needed to be a place for us to make a decision, to prepare ourselves for a life beyond. But as we walk in this world, we are amazed. How many times we look on the sunset and how glorious that sunset is. So many times, even our local TV station has people send in your pictures of sunsets, and they like to show them. We see the beauty of this world. We see the glory of this world. There are places that we like to go to in this world that show the power and the magnitude of God and what he was able to create. I have not had the experience of going to the Grand Canyon, but I've heard of those that have gone. There are things that I have gone to see. I've seen Niagara Falls. Niagara Falls is a truly glorious beauty. It's one of those things that almost draws you to it. It's kind of sad in a way. One of the places I was able to go view the falls was at a point where I could see the water rolling right over. And it didn't draw me in to want to jump in because I knew where I would go, but still the glory of watching all of this and the power that is there. And understanding this is something that God has created, the power of water, the power of nature, all of these things we have in this world. But what we should do with this is take a look at it, enjoy it, but at the same time, as I'm enjoying the power and the beauty of this world that's here now, is think, if this is what God can do with just a small, minute showing or expression of his power, what's it going to be like when we see what he does with the fullness of his power? You know, this physical world does not show us God's fullness of his power. It shows a lot of it, but it doesn't show the fullness of it. We only see a small glimpse of it. But you say, wait a minute, I only see a small glimpse of it, and I can't even see all of it. Because the world that God has created, we can't see all of the stars. We can't see beyond them. Maybe our mind wonders what is beyond those, but God has created a vast universe. But this is only one aspect of the power of God. So let us take the time while we're here on this earth, enjoy what God has given us, but help use it to help us long for, what else does he have for us? What else is there going to be that he can do for us? I've seen this, it is glorious, but yet there is so much more he has that I can take part in. So consider the words of Peter, found in 2 Peter chapter 3 and verse 12. Peter said, looking for, and listen to this, looking for and hasting unto the coming of the day of God. Peter, what are you saying? Looking for it, hasting unto it. This idea of hasting unto it carries with the idea, as the American Standard Version translates it there, looking and earnestly desiring the coming of the Lord. So we need to look for, anticipate, and want that day to come. John, the apostle, writing the book of Revelation, a revelation that tells us a lot about things to come. But as John closes out the book of Revelation, he has a comment that we as followers of God today need to let become part of our own thinking. He states there in a prayer near the end of the book, he says, "Come, Lord Jesus." Can we learn to anticipate? Can we learn to long for his coming so that we too can live our lives in such a way that we can say, "Come, Lord Jesus"? We don't need to have the idea of, no, go away, don't come yet. We need to realize that truly it is something worth living for, worth looking forward to, and worth wanting. Another aspect of getting ready and being prepared for the last days and being prepared for the second coming of Christ is that we should not only be longing for it and looking for it and learning about it, but we need to be loving in view of his coming. As we turn to the record of 1 Peter chapter 4 and verse 8, he says in this verse, "Above all, love each other deeply, because love covers a multitude of sins." To say above all gives you the idea, here's something that's truly important. Here's something that is truly great. And when we think about the concept of love, let's think for a moment about why love is truly such a great thing, something that it is above all. Love is and can be talked about as being the greatest virtue that you can have. Now, there are different kinds of loves. Sometimes we use the word love when we may really mean to like, or it's just something we really enjoy having. But the Apostle Paul in the book of 1 Corinthians tells us so much about what love is all about and what love is. And he goes through and describes what love is. But after he gets through with that, he comes down to verse 13 and sums all of that up, and he makes this comment. "But now abides faith, hope, and love." He says, these three, and the greatest of these is love. When you look at these three and I think about what they are, faith, hope, and then love. Why is it love is the greater of those three? I believe it's kind of like this. When you think about faith, faith is something that we have while we're here in this life. Faith is something we have in this life because right now we are not seeing with the physical eye. Christ, we don't see God physically, we don't see heaven physically. So we are living through the eye of faith. And so while we're on earth, we have that eye of faith. So we see, but we see through the eye of faith. And so faith is something that when we are finally with God in heaven, faith is not going to be a part of what we have in heaven. Faith is what we need now. When we are in heaven, it'll be a reality at the moment there. We will see it clearly, and it will not at that moment be a matter of faith. Nor will it be a matter of hope. In this life, we live with hope, looking forward to, anticipating, wanting that day to come in which we will be able to see God and be with God and see those loved ones that we have, that we've known that have passed on before us. So faith is going to come to a final conclusion when Jesus comes back. Hope is going to come to a final conclusion when he comes back and when we find ourselves in heaven if we have been faithful. But what about love? Love never fails. Love will be enhanced in ways that are beyond our understanding when we are with God and with Christ face to face. So abide these three, faith, hope, love, but love is the greatest of the three. Love is also referred to by Jesus as the greatest commandment. In Matthew 22, verses 37 through 38, Jesus said unto him, "Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment." So love is the greatest virtue. Love also stands as the greatest commandment. We can look at love as also being love is what we might think of as the greatest testimony. When you think about how to lead people to Christ, when you think about how to convince them to become Christians, one of the best ways that we can help encourage other people to become Christians is by the way that we show our love and concern for them. So convincing them, we understand that Jesus himself realized this and he pointed it out to his disciples in John 13 and verse 35. Jesus said in that passage, "By this shall all men know that ye are my disciples, if ye have" what? Love for one another. If we can't show love for one another, we're going to have a hard time convincing anyone to become a child of God, convincing someone to become a Christian. So Jesus said, this is how people will know you are my disciples, if you have love for one another. Love can also be looked upon as being the greatest motivation. What should motivate us to serve God? Sometimes people are motivated by being scared. Yes, we can learn from the Word of God that there is something we want to avoid. The flames of a devil's hell is somewhere that we should not desire to go. It ought to more or less kind of scare us a little bit. We have all heard and may have even experienced some of the fire and brimstone type sermons that may have scared us to the point that, yes, I want to be a Christian. But you know, while that might scare us and might help motivate us to become a child of God, and that's not a bad thing other than the fact that what's going to really sustain us, if we're going to stay the way of following Jesus day in and day out, I don't believe fear and being scared is the main thing that's going to help motivate us. The greatest motivation that we can have is when we truly come to realize that it is love, the love that Christ had for us, the love that God had for us. Listen to the words of Paul in 2 Corinthians 5, verse 14. He says, for Christ's love compels us. Or you might say Christ's love constrains us, because we are convinced that one died for all, and therefore all died. So when we think about the second coming, when we think about last days, we need to be learning about that. We need to be looking for those last days. We even need to be longing for those last days. But also we need to be loving in view of those last days, because of the fact that we all need to help one another along this pathway of life. Peter's description of love is something that is truly important. In 1 Peter chapter 4 and verses 8 and 9, notice what Peter said. And above all these things, have fervent charity or love among yourselves, for love covereth a multitude of sins. Use hospitality one to another without grudging. So think about the last days. We need to long for it. We need to love. And in the words of John the Apostle, come, Lord Jesus, be prepared for when He comes again to take us home.
If you have a Bible question, would like to receive a free Bible correspondence course, would like a copy of 2 free books, Why I'm a Member of the Church of Christ, and Basic Bible Lessons, please contact the Nettelton Church of Christ. Speaking the Truth in Love can be viewed online. Speaking the Truth in Love is brought to you by these area churches of Christ.
Jesus saves, Jesus saves.